Well, hello everyone, it's DR Drake 63 here today. Today, we're going to take a look at cleaning this SLR 104 FR. This is a Bulgarian 5.45 millimeter copy of a Russian AK-74. So this particular one, purchased this a couple of years ago. It has approximately 3,500 rounds down the pipe. So there's guys that will shoot these a lot more, but this one hasn't been cleaned in a while, and I want to kind of show you where the stuff builds up and how we go about getting it clean. So just some basics here. Obviously, you always want to do a function check, and then we want to get right into it. So we take this dust cover off, and here's our bolt. Left now is to take the gas tube off. On this particular one, it kind of pops off. So that just leaves us now with taking off this brake. And there we have it. Two areas of concern today, not concern, but where I want to focus my cleaning efforts on. You can see right here, you've got quite a bit of carbon buildup on the end. Okay. And then to whatever degree you can see, there's some stuff down in here. I'll get you a better shot up on the screen. So what gets dirty on an AK? Well, take a look at this gas block. This is something that absorbs a lot of punishment. See right in here that you got some corrosion. Not so much corrosion. There's a little bit here right on top, which is no big deal. That's just probably where the paint's been worn off by the gas tube during firing. But you can see here that we've got some crap building up, which is to be expected. I have not cleaned this part really at all. 3,500 rounds, a couple of years. But taking a look at this again, this is a part that I definitely want to get clean. It's not going to probably make too much difference in terms of function. I want to get it clean anyway. If you look here, the basic barrel, no rust. I know the Arsenal, some of the SLR 107s have also had issues with paint bubbling with excessive heat. Now, I've had this thing red hot after magazine dump after magazine dump. No signs of that on the 104. Coming back down and looking inside the chamber. You're looking right there, that's your bore. Looks good. Feed ramps. This is a bullet button that if you get a 5.45 rifle and it comes with the regular 7.62 feed ramp, you probably don't want that. RWC Sega conversions were famous for that, and it caused feeding problems. But looking back at the trigger, looking at the wear, you can see here on the hammer that this is not showing any wear. It's taking a beat and it keeps on ticking. Everything else looks good. We're probably going to get some of this slop out of here, but it's not going to affect the performance at all. As far as the actual condition of the rifle itself, guys, I don't do anything except wipe this down when it's done, if that. And as you can see, this paint job holds real nice. The safety selector, not too much, not too little. This is about how I like them. I've seen guys complain about that. My suggestion to you, if that drives you nuts, you need to find a different kind of firearm, because that's common. But anyway, the overall shape of the rifle looks really good, and we're going to talk about cleaning it up. Taking a look inside the gas tube now, you can see that there definitely is buildup, carbon, maybe a little bit of corrosion. So we're gonna make sure we work this real good. Again, looking at this, where the gas tube meets this gas block, this is where you see some rust developing. Not a big deal. That'll clean up real easy. Things I'm interested in is what's this bolt group looking like. Here you see the piston. We expect that to take some degree of abuse. It's doing a lot of work, but it looks really good. You have to wonder on some of the US made parts, which is mostly things like this compensator is a US made part. I believe this is a US made part. Seems to be doing quite well. And of course, I want to be nothing but compliant. So here we are, looking at the bolt itself. Now I'll clean that out a little bit, but things we're looking at is how's this extractor claw holding up. It's holding up really well. And you see a little bit of wear, which is where metal comes into contact with metal, and you kind of need that. This is a part that gets a lot of attention, and it should. This is what's doing a great majority of the work. Every time you pull the trigger, it comes into contact with, the hammer comes into the contact with this piece right here. And that's the tail. As you can see, it's flattened out a tiny bit. This would not be considered mushrooming. This would be considered normal wear. And it's basically hit its point of profile. In other words, it's been like that since about the first 500 rounds, and that's how it stayed. So looking at that, very pleased with this part. Don't see this as something I'm going to need to replace. Here's the part that rides on the rail on the inside of the gun. You see that on both sides actually, and there's no deformities there. This part obviously is riding and contacting as well. Another part to show you of interest is this basically channel on the bolt. It acts like a cam. So as it rotates, as the bolt moves forward, it rotates, and that's what job it does. And you want to look in here and make sure it's maintaining its original shape, that you don't have any weird marks on it. And to be honest, this looks almost brand new, and it's not, believe me. So well done on this. I think that you're going to see a little bit more forgiving wear on a 5.45 versus a 7.62, just because, you know, you're not pounding as much powder every time. So there is going to be that. But this bolt group looks great. I'd be surprised if I ever need to replace it, but if I was going to buy replacement parts for this, it would probably be this. Probably be the bolt group. And not knowing the future of what's going on with the importation of these parts and so forth, and certainly not wanting to buy something made by, say, like a Century Arms, I'm probably going to get another one of these pretty soon, just to have as a backup. They're not cheap. They're, I want to say, coming up on about 150 bucks, but I want to be able to use this rifle lifelong. Giving you a little bit better look at the end here. What I don't want to do, is chip away at this, because it's so close to the crown, and it's an accurate, very accurate rifle. So what we're going to use is something I normally wouldn't clean a barrel or anything on an AK with, but this is a nice solvent used for gun bores, copper fouling, that kind of thing. Again, I'm not going to use this in the barrel itself, but I am going to use this and see how this does on taking out this crud that's built up. A little bit on a paper towel here. Stuff's pretty caustic, so you want to make sure you're in a nice ventilated area. Here's what I'm doing, guys. Nice and easy. I expect this is going to take a little while unless I want to just completely soak this thing. But you can see it's starting to come off, which is what we want. So rather than make you watch the next 4 or 5 minutes of this, take my word for it, we're doing some scrubbing. million ways you could probably do this. This is what I do. You'll notice that just about everything I'm going to do on a firearm is going to involve this stuff. Good enough for the United States military. Good enough for me. Let's just put this in and just let it soak a little bit. So, be back. Right now we're looking at the after shot after quite a bit of going around this, and a lot of guys are going to say, dude, it doesn't look like you got much clean, but if you look real close here, you will see that we have a very clean crown. And we accomplished that by using the 22 caliber bore snake probably as much as anything. So it doesn't look perfect, and the next question might be, hey, what are you going to do about that muzzle device? And my answer is nothing. I don't see any need to clean that out. More likely going to replace this with a Z-cut brake or something. We'll have to make sure that we're 922 compliant. But yeah, not much to do with this. What we're concerned mostly about are these threads and the crown. And as far as that carbon buildup goes, I think I just have to live with it. I don't want to mess around with scratching up the end of that barrel. So it's part of life, and usually not the kind of thing that's going to bother me too much anyway. Get back to this gas tube. You saw me put these two dirty swabs in there. They were clean when they went in. I'm actually going to keep doing this a little bit, because what I want to do is get a little bit of a protective coating. We know that we have some potential rust issues, more so along the line of corrosion. And I have not shot corrosive ammo through this without cleaning it, so not quite sure where that comes from. So anyway, again, this is the gas tube. What I mostly don't want to do is have any kind of damage to the metal. So again, we're just going to continue to do that. Just as a side note, you can see right here, this is a US made part. Okay, so it's a compliance part. Now what a lot of guys will do is they'll get their imported AKs that have the certain number of compliance parts you need to be legal, and they'll swap them out for some different furniture. Personally, I think that's got to be about the most ridiculous attempts at a law that I've ever seen, but it does exist. I personally like to keep this rifle in its as issued state. In other words, what the Russian military issues to its soldiers as a main battle rifle. And this Arsenal SLR 104 is as close as you're going to get. Moving along to the bolt, we give that a quick wipe down. Some guys like to run these things wet, wet, wet. I like to run them lube. The difference is I don't think you need to have lubrication pouring out of the sides of your rails or out of your dust cover in order for this to be working well. These things can handle running dirty. It's just the question of sooner or later you need to clean them. You can kind of see right here what we're looking at. Just that light a little bit, you can see better right here what we're looking at. And this thing cleans up very nice. Things that can go wrong on this firing pin. This is a floating pin. You see that popping up and down there? By floating, it means it's just in there, able to move. There are some spring-loaded firing pins in the SLR 107s. I've heard mixed reviews about that, but this is in accordance with mil-spec design. And like I said, doesn't really take much, and this part looks really good. After 3,500 rounds, guys, this part looks really good. As far as the gas tube, it's going to get dirty with shot number one, so I'm not too worried about polishing it. I just want to make sure that this thing can get relatively clean with a quick wipe down. And here I am using this CLP. I think it's the best stuff ever for firearms. You've heard me talk about it in videos before. I live in an extreme weather climate. It'll get extremely cold where I live, and it'll get hot. And with that in mind, you need a lubrication that's not going to break down with use or heat or cold. The best stuff I've ever seen, bar none, is CLP. So there you have it. We'll put a little bit of lubrication on that because we know that that is a moving part of note. And that's all she really needs. Taking a look at the spring here, it looks good. I don't know what you'd really need to do to this. I will point out, though, that minimal wear where this tab holds the dust cover in. Minimal wear. So, spring looks good. This is not a part I would expect to have to replace. If anything was going to break, it might be this capture right here that holds the spring in place. So, again, spare parts, maybe have a backup spring. I don't know. But as you can see on my hands, I touched this thing. This is a part that does get dirty. So it probably bears a little bit of additional wipe down, but it's going to be pretty hard for this to not function because it's dirty. It's more for aesthetics. As far as the dust cover, what do you do with something like this? It serves a purpose of keeping dust out. You do get a little bit of junk underneath. And again, for protection purposes, we might put a little bit down and just give it a good wipe. So I've already run a bore snake a couple times through this. So that's not going to be needed to be repeated. About the only thing I'm going to do is wipe down the inside of the rails and add a few drops, again, of the CLP. As you can see, this is not dirty. There's nothing that's going to interfere. Pretty clean stuff. And that's one of the advantages you get when you're using a piston versus direct impingement. Less crud inside the receiver. So, see, there's a little bit of dirt. It's nothing to write home about. Again, the thing that I like to continually talk about when we're looking at this particular firearm is it doesn't need a lot of maintenance. It has a chrome line barrel. You can see right here, you're going to get carbon buildup no matter what you do. This is running almost exclusively non-corrosive ammo. I've got a bunch of 7N6. I haven't shot much of it. But as you can see, you're going to get buildup. You get into several thousand rounds. If someone likes to tell you that they have shot several thousand rounds out of an AR, go take a look at some of these internals and you'll know whether they're lying or not. So now we're going to finish up. We've cleaned this thing. We've wiped down the areas, certainly where metal makes contact. We have improved what's going on at the end. I don't think you stop the carbon built up on the end, especially using that kind of muzzle brake, but let's go ahead and put this back together. First of all, gas tube on. Put your piston or your bolt group back in, I should say, in your piston. Last but not least, and there you have it. Dog doesn't like that. What you have, though, is butter. A butter. Why do I mean butter? Listen to that bolt. Beautiful. This thing's just getting broken in. Nice 2-stage trigger. Brakes better as time goes. A lot of people want to replace that on an Arsenal. I'm not one of them. So, again, not going to do much with this other than screw it back on. That locks into place. I've had guys say, well, it's a little loose. It can handle it. It's supposed to be. And believe me, after a little bit of carbon buildup, it won't be. But I like to take it off and get the extra buildup off whenever I can. Again, always being cognizant of not being in a situation where I can damage the crown. So here you go. Here's that SLR 104 that I know a lot of you guys are jealous because you'd love to have one of these. You can't get one of these without paying an arm and a leg. I'm glad I got one when I did. This sucker keeps going. Probably the next time I show you this will be shooting it someplace. But the fact of the matter remains with this firearm is it's just dependable as all get out. It's semi-auto. It's accurate as heck. It shoots that 5.45 round, which some people say is the master race. I don't quite get that, but I do get it's a damn good round and it's affordable to shoot. I want to thank you for spending your time with me and taking a look at the takedown and cleaning of this particular rifle. If you have any questions or comments, don't be afraid to post. And like always, please remember, support the NRA. This is DR Drake 63 saying thank you.